Hello and welcome to the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich and today I'm recording from Jacksonville, Florida. And today's episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Graduate Certificate in Penetration Testing and Ethical Hacking. In Diaries today, we have a talk, yet again, about the 2021 Sonicwall vulnerabilities that are still being exploited. And while there is qualitatively nothing really new here, it's still the same URLs being hit. Well, the quantity substantially changed. It changed by an order of magnitude. Now, there's one particular network that sticks out here, and that's 141.98.80. This particular network belongs to a global host. Global host appears to be one of those low-cost hosting providers, and of course they're often being used to then just rent a couple cheap machines and start these scans. Of course, with low cost often also comes low support and an inability to sort of react to abuse complaints. Still have to notify them and see if maybe we get a response from them. And Google released an update to Google Chrome. We are now up to version 1.3.6. This update fixes two vulnerabilities that were detected externally and a number, and there's obviously various fixes from internal audits. Now, what is kind of interesting here is that one of the flaws is already being exploited in the wild. So upgrade, as usual. Google Chrome usually does a reasonably good job in upgrading itself. I always recommend at least restart Google Chrome once a day. That way, you usually make sure that the update is actually being applied. And to make things more exciting, the vulnerability was actually made public with details on X 10 days ago by S-Lancer here, the X account. The vulnerability resolves around link headers being sent for sub-resource requests and the refer policy here being not correctly applied to these link headers. As a result, it's possible that URL parameters are leaking. Now, a couple of things about this. First of all, you shouldn't really have any confidential data on URLs, but sometimes that's not easy to avoid. Secondly, the refer policy. Its intent is that the refer header does not include additional details that you are afraid could leak, like URL parameters, but that's not properly or not applied as expected in this particular case. So the end result is leakage of URL parameters. Now, earlier this week, I talked about backdoor versions of the RV-Tools software. Again, this is a well-respected and non-malicious, usually, tool to get dashboards and performance data from VMware environments. Now, there's a new article here from Zerodaylabs, which does make it sound like it wasn't actually, as reported earlier, malicious ads directing people to a completely unrelated RV-Tools site that then delivered the malicious version, but that the malicious version actually came from the original RV-Tools site. At least that's how I read this article here at Zerodaylabs.net. They're not specifically stating where they got the compromised version from, but they're not saying that anybody followed any ads or anything like this. And they do point out that RV-Tools should better secure their distribution point for their software. So I'll leave it up to you to figure out what exactly happened here, but definitely be careful with RV-Tools, whether or not it came from the original RV-Tools installation site or some other site. You may have gotten a malicious version over the last couple of weeks. And ESET is reporting that they are seeing a number of cross-site scripting vulnerabilities being exploited in webmail systems, in particular by threat actors linked to Russia. I've said it before, but writing a webmail system is one of the most difficult things you could possibly do. You have to render the HTML that you receive from the email inside the actual web app that makes up the webmail system. There are some tricks that many sites are using, like, for example, iframes and such, to keep things a little bit isolated, but still it remains difficult to do it all right. Well, so no surprise that we keep seeing vulnerabilities like cross-site scripting in systems like that. Your best bet is to keep things patched carefully, and of course, maybe try not to use a webmail system, but I realize that this is not always an option. Particular target here appear to be webmail servers run by various government entities and the like. And of course, they often, for political, legal reasons, aren't allowed to use some of the major US-based cloud providers that may also offer webmail systems, but instead they run their own, like Simpra, Hort, and similar systems that are quite popular in that space. Well, and that's it for today. So thanks for listening, and thanks for liking and recommending this podcast. And reviews and any feedback, comments are always very welcome. So thanks, and talk to you again on Monday. Bye.